we're lucky enough to live in such a beautiful place.
This makes a delicious, like, lemony kind of salt.
Crab is indeed probably the biggest part of the Newfoundland fishery today.
My name is Mike Wahl, and I'm passionate about exploring health. Come on a journey with me across Newfoundland and Labrador as we learn about wellness here at home. Food's an essential part of our culture in Newfoundland and Labrador. It brings people together and is a driver for our economy. The foods we eat play a role in our health, and it seems like the more we've migrated away from these traditional foods, the worse our health has gotten. The amazing thing about these local foods is they're exactly that. They're from our oceans and from our forests. But it seems like this way of eating isn't as popular as it used to be. So are there people that are keeping these traditions alive? And if so, are these the healthiest choices?
This is where I do all my foraging tours this year, so I'm just here getting ready for an upcoming tour, first one of the season.
What do you got here today?
This is the salad green mix that I sell at the market. Every week it changes, but this week we got dandelions, which are starting to get a bit bitter now because they're flowering, but if you find them in the shade, they're still good to go. Chickweed's the main base of the salad mix this week, and it's a really nice peppery, tender green.
You just eat it like this?
Yep.
Okay.
This one's sorrel, one of my favorite greens. It tastes like lemon, so it'll give it a really nice bite in the salad.
Oh, it tastes exactly like
lemon.
lemon.
Man, identical. I make a lemonless lemonade for the foraging tours. It's so good.
That's amazing.
Just give it a little bite of the knotweed so you get the taste profile. I like to cook that more, but it's give you that kind of a sour rhubarbish taste.
Is it a rhubarb?
No, people call it donkey rhubarb, but it's a Japanese knotweed. It's that like really tall bamboo, that really invasive plant that grows everywhere here.
How tasty.
The wild hops. It really kind of does have an asparagus-y taste, but really good fried.
Would you use this uncooked, or would you always cook it with butter or something like that?
Yeah, I usually always cook it, or I'll make a pickle. I do a beer brine pickle, which is really, really tasty. With foraging, it's a lot of times you kind of like, this reminds me of this, so it's a good way to substitute it in for something you would buy at a grocery store. And you can pick it all season, like from spring right to fall. The spring shoots it's my favorite time to forage. There's just there's no food all of a sudden, and then there's so much.
That's really good.
And that's the river mint, the little baby mint.
Oh yeah. So is this actually mint?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, yes, mint grows in the river. They make mojitos with it and tea, like for upset stomachs. But when it's small like that, like it looks so nice and purple, a lot of people just use it as a garnish in baking and cakes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's a lot of stuff.
It's that time of year. It's easier to go get a salad in your backyard than go to Costco right now.
So you have to know a lot of stuff if you're going to pick these plants in the middle of nature, right?
Yeah, for sure. But it's all self-interest. But I've been into it since I was a kid. I grew up on the southern shore, so I spent a lot of time with my grandmother picking berries, and she'd do a lot of baking and making jam, and she'd have me out picking dandelion greens early in the spring, and she'd blanch them and put them away for Sunday dinner and use them like turnip tops. Me and my brother picked a lot of mussels on the beach and did a lot of beach combing and knocking the neighbors' doors for damsons and plums and apples. And
cool.
I just always had such a fascination in food and finding it myself and where it comes from. This stuff is everywhere. It's like you would think that you would need to know all these spots, but man, everybody in Newfoundland would have access to any of this stuff.
Oh man, I'd love to see them sometime. I'd like to go and do that.
Let's do it. I can take and show you. I'm just about to head back out to one of my favorite spots now.
I love that, man. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Okay. We grabbed our baskets and headed down the road to the coastline. It turns out where I go for hikes, Shawn goes for dinner.
Failed to mention that you should probably wear gloves while you're doing this.
I might let you do this.
I mean, I do it every other day, so my hands have built up quite the immunity.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just pick them.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, they're really great for making pesto. They're full of anti-inflammatory, so the tea is like so good for you and tasty as well. I just like to use them anywhere you use spinach, like the nettle spanakopita is so good, quiche, anything like that.
Anything else around here I can pick?
Yeah, right in front of you there's some wild hops there. Just watch the nettles.
That one right there?
Yep, that shoot there. They're one of my favorites. Yep, that's it.
This one right here. Cool. How else do you incorporate all this forage food into your cooking?
I just, like I said, there's food everywhere, but when I'm tasting something and it reminds me of something like the cabbage, you just replace it with something you would buy at the grocery store. Yeah. It's so good for your mental health, your grocery bill, gives you exercise.
So how does it feel for you to be involved in sort of bringing this tradition back to life? I know it's been here for a long time, but you've kind of brought it back to the forefront.
Yeah, it feels great. Like when I first started trying to sell sting nettles and Japanese knotweed at the farmers market, people thought I was literally insane. But like it's people from going to the restaurants and trying these things, and from other people at it, like Lori McCarthy, and like I said, I did a cookbook with all this stuff in it. People are really realizing this isn't just famine food.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the weeds that I was showing you today, are people are pulling them out of their vegetable garden, but it tastes better than the vegetables that they're growing in their garden.
So what do you think's next for the foraging scene here in the province?
I'd see a lot more people getting into it. A lot more people are conscientious about where their food comes from. I see it as a way for people to spend time with their family. So I think it really is becoming a big full circle where people are out interested in picking berries again and making food with it and preserving food and putting it away for the winter. So I mean, we're lucky enough to live in such a beautiful place. And in Newfoundland, we've always been known for our great seafood, and now finally we're being known for so much great food that we have here on our land. So you combine two of those things together, and man, what a beautiful meal.
Shawn's right. The ocean in Newfoundland has an abundance of food. Our fisheries have defined our past and are an essential part of our economy. But the fisheries evolved over the years. Newfoundland is now known internationally for our crab. And it turns out that we have the world's largest crab plant tucked into the small town of 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄.
𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄, it's well known in the crab business. It's a big facility, processes a lot of pounds, has for many years, and we're mid-season here, so lots going on for sure.
This is obviously a big part of the community, hey?
Certainly is. I think she goes locally by the name of Big Blue. When we put her back, the plant's about 600 feet long, so it does take up half the harbor.
Now, you gotta forgive me because I've never been to a plant like this before, so can you walk me through how the process goes from like start to finish?
Sure, yeah. Well, in 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄, of course, we're very close to the fishing ground, so we have a lot of material delivered, crab, delivered directly to the wharf. The rest of it comes in from communities all over Newfoundland, from St. Anthony to St. Mary's. Once the crab is received to the plant, we basically ice it and put it in the holding room until ready for processing. When the processing is required, we take the product, feed it into our in-feed lines. We basically wash the crab, and then it goes through a system where it's halved, what we call butchering. At that particular stage, the crab is what we call sections, which is what we normally refer to as when we see a crab cluster or a section. We have very automated systems here for grading crab. We use a vision technology which looks at the color, size characteristics of the crab, and computers basically determine now to what pack each product is to go. It helps us to be very precise on our specification. Once the crab is packed in plastic pans, about 30 pounds for the food service and retail. The idea is to keep it in that pan. We don't want to move it around or take it out or shift it about and break it up. So we put it in the pans, we cook the crab then fully. Once it's cooked, it comes out chilled in fresh water. And then we go into a liquid brine. It's very salty, 92% salt, if you were to measure it on a salometer, and it's minus 20 degrees Celsius. So the crab is in there for about a half an hour. Fully frozen, comes out of the brine, we put a nice glaze on it, and a glaze basically is a freshwater bath which seals the crab to keep all the flavor and juice in so it doesn't dehydrate over time. And then we go into the packaging stages. So we take the crab, put it in the boxes, whether it be a 2-pound or a 30-pound, and then into the freezer for shipment. Season's 4 months, fast and furious, 24/7.
It seems really busy here. How does this stack up to the rest of the world? This seems like a pretty big plant.
It is. 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄 globally will produce the most pounds of snow crab in any plant globally. No question. It's a big facility. It was designed for volume. We have about 170 people working per shifts, 2 shifts.
Yeah.
We operate for 18 hours a day and some cleanup in between, 7 days a week.
Is the crab fishery healthy? Because I think like Newfoundland fishery, I think everybody thinks about cod, but crab is obviously a big part of it.
Crab is indeed probably the biggest part of the Newfoundland fishery today. Newfoundland has other fisheries, capelin cod, Greenland halibut, and they're all very important to the province as well. But the main revenue driver, both for processors and for fishermen today, is the Newfoundland snow crab fishery. It is quite healthy. Like any seafood resource, it can go up and down. The health of the stock is based on the ability to manage it correctly and have practices in place that protect the resource, and there's lots of those. So the resource is administered by the federal government, Department of Fisheries and Oceans. Things are looking pretty good from a resource perspective on snow crab, no doubt.
Yeah, it's nice to see the rural communities being able to be supported by this and people being able to stay there because that's such an important part of our heritage here.
Yeah, no question. The fishery changes in what we harvest and how we harvest the species that we process. I think wherever you go in Newfoundland, in any bay or inlet, you'll always see some element of the fishery, whether it's an individual harvest or a fleet of vessels harvesting fish offshore. It's all part of the fishery. Shellfish, finfish, you name it, we have it all. It's all great.
Foraging and fishing are two huge parts of our food system here in the province, but there's still one thing left to explore, and that's wild game. So who better to take me out and teach me about the traditions of these foods than local chef and author of the book Food, Culture, Place.
Hey, how are ya?
How are you?
Good, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. What a beautiful spot you have here.
Thank you. I know. I love it down here. I'm telling you. It all happens in the Southern Shore in Mobile. This is where it's all happening. It's gorgeous. Yeah, yeah.
So you've been busy. Nice to see you. You got a book out, a show, everything.
Yeah. It's been busy. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, it seems to be just a great year for so many things.
Exactly. I'm
Right?
really glad you had time to take me out here today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Yeah, so it'll be nice. We there's a trail just like 2-minute walk from here. The ocean's just right there. There's a beach over there, and so there's so much happening. So some stuff is packed. You're gonna carry the wood. We're gonna leave 2 minutes from here and hit a trail. I'm gonna walk down the trail, pick a little bit of stuff.
Okay.
We're gonna land on the beautiful beach in Mobile. Gonna get a fire going. We're gonna go from there. I'm gonna cook up some wild game goodies for you.
It sounds rough.
It's a rough day, Mike.
Okay, let's get to it. We packed up our gear and headed down to the water. She mentioned there was lots on the menu, so I'm glad I brought my appetite.
How'd you first get into foraging and cooking?
Well, cooking was started when I was 15. And then I went on to work in restaurants for 20 years or so, and it was only when I had my daughter that I really took the time to fall in love with the food here.
Right.
Actually, yeah. So I spent lots of time like learning about French and Italian food, and then just watching what was happening around the world and how many chefs and people were taking the food of their place and really showcasing it.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to do that for here. This is one of the plants I thought we'd pick, actually.
Where?
Right next to you. Yeah. So this is, I think, is mostly known for, the moose-eating alder. So we'll get some of this and to put on skewer our moose on, which will give us a nice flavor. And then we got some leaves to throw on the fire.
Oh, nice.
And that will give us a nice smoke flavor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And there's one more flavor I want to show you.
Okay.
We'll actually make a little wild salt to put on our moose. You think about what kind of flavors will go with wild game? Well, just what it eats. That's the best thing it tastes with. So this one's the larch tree, actually, and it grows its needles fresh every year, the whole tree. This makes a delicious, like, lemony kind of salt. Like I tell people always, when you're picking stuff, just take what you need.
Right.
There's lots there for anyone or anything else, any other of those creatures that need it.
So I can see the water up here.
Yeah, so it's just 2 minutes from here, and we'll get to the beach, get a fire going, and cook up some game.
I can't wait, I'm hungry.
All right, Mike, it's a great spot. You want to get the fire going, and I'll start taking everything out.
Yeah, count
So
me in.
good?
I
All
can
right.
do that. All right, so I got the easy job. I'm gonna make some skewers, right? But what are we gonna cook up?
Well, you're going to make skewers for moose, and I have a seal loin. Seal loin is not so traditional in terms of our preparation today, so I look forward to cooking it up for you, actually. But we're going to start with a blueberry cordial and a little ice and a little soda water. Sun's coming back out. It's, woo!
You're talking my language
Someday.
right about now. Right on. So how do you make the blueberry cordial?
So it's just a reduction of blueberries and sugar and mint, wild mint, and I'll put in whatever sort of wildflowers are on the go at the time. Yeah, it's fun. It's nicer than having hot tea on a hot day.
So Lori, do you shoot this moose yourself?
No, this is my brother's moose from Fall Pass. So yeah, there's a couple of the really nice pieces left.
Yeah.
So I thought I would bring it out for you to have a little taste today. These will be for you. And this is just straight up, this is the moose steak that I sliced thin and pounded out for us this morning. So we'll skewer that on whenever you
So just sort of fold it on, like.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not fussy.
not?
I'm
Okay.
not fussy. We're gonna grind up that
Oh,
that larch.
I got
you
that right
picked.
here.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
we've got some salt to go with it.
it's heavy.
So that's, and that little container of salt that you have, that's the salt that I make from the seawater.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Yeah, so I just boil down the seawater.
That's really Newfoundland sea salt.
That's really Newfoundland sea
Wow.
salt. Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm gonna cook up our little piece of seal here.
Yeah.
And I just got some butter and some oil in the pan.
So dark, eh?
I know, hey? Yeah.
Does it need a lot of oil? I mean, wouldn't seal be pretty fatty?
So all the fat's been removed from this. So this is the seal loin.
Okay.
And the back loins are actually not, there is no fat in them really.
Wow.
Once it's all cleaned up. Yeah, so it's it's an interesting way to eat seal. Lots of time when I cook for people, I want them just to taste it like it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like this is what this animal tastes like, this is what the meat tastes like. And so let's get it in its kind of purest form.
Is this your favorite way to cook? Like over a fire
is.
like this? Like, 'cause
Oh
you
my
said you
God,
work
yes.
in restaurants, but
This is, yeah.
Yeah.
People often say to me, why didn't you never open a restaurant? It's like, but I get to cook like this, and now I get to sit with you and sit across from you and tell you, Do you want to put those skewers on there and see if we
do.
can't?
it's like that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
There you go. Take that nice salt you made and give it
Yeah.
a little flavor over it.
Just a dusting over the whole
Yeah,
thing?
just a little dusting over the whole thing. I like to introduce people to seal cook like this with a little tart and a little,
nice.
So we're gonna put some cranberry jam in the pan. And my dear friend Marion made this for us. And then this is a little bit of,
cool.
just to cut it, this is a bit of homemade apple cider vinegar.
Right on.
Yeah, from the apples are here. Guests are often really surprised when they taste it for the first time. So let's get it cut up, so that you can have a taste of it.
So you do this with guests all the time?
I do, yeah. It's just it's an opportunity to introduce them to foods that they can hardly get or anywhere they travel on the island, right?
Yeah.
So much of these foods are not served in restaurants and they're still only served in our homes, right? So this gives me an opportunity to introduce it to them and sort of tell them the story of why all this food is so important to us.
Oh, that's unreal.
It's nice, eh? It's very
That
different.
doesn't taste the way I thought it would taste at all. It tastes like it's very like steak, like it's very like not like even gamey. That's unreal. I never would have thought that.
I love that. And that's exactly why I love to do it. So there you go, let's taste one.
Wow.
Give that another little bit of
Salt.
on that side.
That's amazing. Is that just prepared? Did you marinate that?
Nothing. That was one of the cross cuts of steaks. I just cut the sinew out of it, and so it was kind of left with 3 little pieces of individual muscle. And then, it's just, and this is why I love to do it, because you get to taste it just like it is.
Like I'm a big moderate when it comes to food, right?
Yeah.
Like
Me too.
you need to have
Absolutely.
you need to have a happy medium. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be cognizant of it so you can decide when you want to deviate away from being healthy.
One of the largest misconceptions about our food, I feel, is that it's not healthy. But I think we have this idea that the food in Newfoundland is not healthy. I don't agree with it, because I think that the wild game, the fish, how close that we can eat to the land, like that traditional diet was actually healthier than we think, right? There's very little imported foods.
Yep.
The foods were very simply prepared. They were boiled, they were, oven baked.
Yep.
And so that traditional diet, I actually believe, is really good for us. The food from here tells the story of who we are and how we came to be and how we thrived in this place. Actually, I think it's like the ingenuity of how we learn to prepare food, preserve it, and and to take care of it. So I believe that if we continue to eat our food of here and continue to teach the next generation to eat it and how to care for it. So I think if we put it on our plates, then we'll care about it more. We'll care about the industries that support it. We'll care about our resources more. Maybe we'll pay attention to how, legislation is made around our hunting and our fishing. And I think for me, that's what's most important for all of us today and for us to pass on to the next generation. Tradition is really important. And heritage and culture, I think that they're all very different. So these are our cultural foods. These are our traditional foods. But I think it's okay to change it. Like, I think in order for it to stay on our plates And guess what? People come from around the world to eat food like this in some of our greatest restaurants. So I think some of it is about, you know, changing ideas and our vision for what we want it to be. And what I believe is that our food stands on a world-class stage.
I agree, and there's going to be none of it left today. And I see you've got a sweet something
I
here.
did. So I made some fresh tea buns. These are Nan's tea bun recipe and cream, and some baked apple jam and dried rose petals. So,
What a perfect way to end our cook-up. Thank you so much,
you're
Lori.
welcome. Cheers.
Cheers.
How lucky are we that we have all these foods on our doorstep? There seems to be a growing appreciation for the traditional foods of our province. And what better way to celebrate it than to go foraging with Shawn, learn about the crab fishery with Robin, and to have a meal with Lori. From land to sea, Newfoundland has a variety of traditional foods. And it just goes to show that finding a healthy meal might be closer to home than we think.